Right, what's good to a battle reaction? Right, today we're going to be checking out top 10 most beautiful states in America. Honestly, I'm literally on the verge of just packing and coming over. Why not see the top 10 beautiful states? So if I do, I know what to choose, right? Yeah, let's jump into this video. Check this out. Make sure you guys let me know which states you guys are from and if you made the list or whatnot. Yeah, let's jump straight into this.
Before I say anything else, I
Unreal.
have to say it isn't nice to judge. Every state is both beautiful and ugly in its own way. Take California.
And do you know what's crazy about every state in America? It's so different in so many ways. Like every single state, it's like 50 different countries in
For
one.
example, on the one hand, you have Yosemite and Big
Wow.
Sur, but on the other hand, well, you have Skid Row and Stockton. To be completely honest with you, this is one of the hardest lists I've ever made because I really love the nature in so many states. But the West really is best when it comes to beautiful and unique scenery. Now,
Listen, if I lived anywhere near here, I'm getting my horse. I'm getting my family on horses. We're all getting in cowboy gear and we're just trotting it on down this path right here. Right here.
don't get me wrong, I grew up in the Northeast, and while there is a lot of charm to the small towns and wooded habitats there, it just doesn't compare to the majestic vistas and untouched wilderness found in the West. But don't worry, there are some eastern states on the list too. It does have a special place in my heart after all. Anyways, I ranked the states by their natural land.
How is that even that? Do you know what I mean? Like, how is this even there? Like, you got the blue, the green, how?
Landmarks, national and state parks, eco-diversity, and accessibility to nature. Forget about good jobs or city amenities. I mean, who cares about money when you're surrounded by this?
Bro, this isn't real. Do you know what's crazy, right? It feels like I'm watching a video of like 10 best places to visit in the world. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying these are the 10 best places in the world. I'm just saying like they're so different. It seems like we're looking at different countries around the world, right? Not just one country.
Probably goes without saying, but this video isn't for the material girls. So here's to you fellow nature lovers. And if you aren't a nature
Hey, what about materialistic boys, huh?
lover, well, keep watching to see why you should be. Because these are the top 10 most beautiful states in America.
Here we go. Let's see, number 10.
Maine. I know you're probably thinking, what? That doesn't look like Maine. Well, that's cause it isn't. It honestly was really hard to choose which state to put at number 10.
Wait, what?
So I'm starting the list off with an honorable mention. South Dakota. Wait,
Oh, I was gonna say.
what? South Dakota? Yeah, it might come as a surprise if you've never been here, but that's because it's incredibly underrated. I was blown away on my first visit, and not just because the wind cave. From natural grasslands to the Badlands to Spearfish Canyon and Custer State Park to the...
Yeah, the rock forms are pretty cool, I can't lie. I'm not really a massive fan of like flat land and stuff. Maybe some people are. I'm
Black
not, but...
Hills, which are a heck of a lot more than just 4 dead guys' faces on a rock. The diversity of nature in the Mount Rushmore state is mind-boggling. I seriously have no clue why it's one of the least visited states in the country. But enough with my South Dakota obsession. Actual number 10 is Maine. You might not have given the Pine Tree State much thought if you live outside of New England, but as a New Englander myself, my family would take trips up here almost every summer, and let me tell ya, it is beautiful. Outside the Portland metro area, no, not the one in Oregon, the state is pretty much just untouched, gorgeous nature and really cute, charming small towns. Which
I like this about America. You guys have a lot of it. You have like a lot of rivers with just big trees either side, and there's a lot. It's really, really nice.
Endless opportunities for adventure, whether you want to hike, ski, swim, kayak, hunt, or fish. And if you're lucky, or maybe unlucky if you get too close.
Wait, is there actually a lot of skiing places in America? I've never thought about that. I've never really heard of American skiing. No one's ever mentioned it. Is that actually a thing? Because I always want to go skiing. I've always wanted to. I've been indoor skiing. And yeah, I really, really, really want to go skiing one day.
You might even see a moose. Maine's honestly one of the best kept secrets on the East Coast. From jutting cliffs to stunning beaches, if you include all the islands, Maine actually has more miles of coastline than even California. And speaking of islands, have you seen Mount Desert Island? It's home to Acadia National Park, which is pretty much the crown jewel of Maine. There really is no other place in America quite like it. Number 9.
Number 9.
Michigan. Now, this might be surprising too, but Michigan's actually another state with more coastline than California. Granted, it's just surrounded by really big lakes, but they're so big that it almost feels like the ocean. You may have heard of the famously old-fashioned Mackinac Island, where cars are forbidden and horses and buggies transport you back in time around the Victorian town. But have you heard of...
Really? That's sick.
Isle Royale National Park. The 400-island archipelago is actually the least visited national park in the contiguous United States. Mainly because the only way to get there is a 3-hour-long ferry. But if you make the trip, or honestly just go anywhere in the Upper Peninsula, the wildlife and scenery you encounter will literally feel like a movie. And let's not forget the multicolored Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, the isolated hilly beaches at Sleeping Bear Dunes, and Headlands International Dark Sky Park, which is one of the best places to see the stars. And if you're lucky,
absolutely love space. I don't. Okay.
The Northern Lights.
Okay, you can see the Northern Lights in America. At this point, you guys are just getting way too greedy. Why can you do everything in There's not one thing you can't do. Tell me one thing in the comments right now you actually can't do.
I could go on and on about the beauty of Michigan. I mean, there are freaking ice caves and a rock jutting out of the water that looks like a turnip. Number 8, Oregon. When you think of Oregon, you probably just think of hipsters in Portland, or maybe something like this or this. But the Beaver State has pretty much every type of biome imaginable. You probably didn't know this was in Oregon, or this. The ecosystems here are seriously...
Yo, how do we go from this to that to this to that? How are we going from like the desert to snow and mountains and skiing to forests? And how? I don't get it.
So dang diverse that each region feels like its own country. From beautiful beaches bordered by sinkholes, sand dunes, and giant rock islands, to lush national forests teeming with literally thousands of streams and waterfalls, to charming artsy towns.
I could just imagine a bunch of friends right now talking in a group chat. Oh, what do you want to do today? I'm bored. Oh, we could go and get some buggies in the desert. Nah. Do you want to go skiing? Nah. Do you want to go to the forest? Not really. Oh, do you want to go to the beach? Bro, it just goes on and on and on. Do you know what I get in the UK? Oh, do you want to go to the pub? Do you want to go to cinema? Literally it. What's to visit? Maybe Safari Park. Maybe Safari. That's it.
It's like Ashland, Bend, and Hood River. The entire state just feels enchanted. The Cascade Range also runs through the middle of Oregon and is home to some of the most beautiful mountains in the country. And Crater Lake National Park, which is literally a giant blue lake at the top of a volcanic crater. It's honestly one of the most unique and gorgeous settings I've ever seen. And I haven't even mentioned the eastern half of the state, with places like the Painted Hills and Owyhee Canyonlands that you'll swear must be photoshopped. Oh, and there's also Hell's Canyon, aka the deepest gorge in North America, with a nearly 8,000-foot vertical drop into the Snake River.
Wow.
Needless to say, there's a lot more to Oregon than just Portland. Number 7, Colorado. Denver might be overrated, but there's a reason why so many people are moving to, or at least vacationing in the Centennial State. Take a drive on I-70 and you'll see why. Every curve of the interstate reveals a breathtaking view of the Rockies.
I know I'm repeating myself here, and I do apologize, right? But listen, we've spoke about, like, in the UK, 3 hours drive is a very long drive. Yep. And you guys say, no, it's not. Right, of course, 3 hours to you lot in a long drive. When you're seeing scenery like this whilst driving, right? That's amazing. Bro, I could probably drive 5 hours plus looking at this, right? In the UK, you just got to Google it. Google in the UK a video of driving through a UK motorway. And then tell me after that, you would want to drive more than 3 hours. Oh, it's unreal, man. I'm telling you right now, one of these days, hopefully soon, hopefully I've got a good excuse with my YouTube, we can go. Hopefully.
breathtaking view of the Rockies.
To live, I mean, I don't just want to visit. I want to go there.
Before following the Eagle and Colorado rivers through the canyons into a landscape that looks like Mars. And this is honestly the least scenic route. The mountains are just gorgeous all around with 58 peaks exceeding 14,000 feet. By far the most of any state. In fact, there are only 4 states in the country that even have one 14,000 footer. But while the Front Range is magical, Colorado is so much more than just a beautiful mountainous region full of world-class ski resorts and hikes. Head to the southwest near Durango and you'll find some of the most well-preserved Native American pueblos at Mesa Verde National Park. Or you could head to Colorado Springs to find some of the most beautiful red rock formations at Garden of the Gods. And Colorado's also home to the tallest sand dunes in North America. This state is honestly so diverse that even if you spent your entire life here, it still wouldn't be long enough to explore all the unique environments that...
You know what? I'm actually taking mental notes. Don't think I'm not. If I do happen to in the future move, Texas was always up there just because I know people in Texas. But Colorado is now that's up there as well. Mental note, Texas, Colorado so far.
The area has
you guys can help me out as well.
Number 6. Washington. Seattle and rain are probably the first 2 words that come to mind when you think of Washington. But this state is so much more. Don't get me wrong, on the days where it isn't misty and rainy and you can actually see, Seattle's one of the most picturesque cities in the world. But the constant rain kinda is what makes the Evergreen State stay, well, evergreen.
Right.
Speaking of evergreen, North Cascades National Park might be one of the most beautiful places on Earth. I mean, have you seen Mount Shuksan? Well, probably not, because it's also one of the least visited national parks, which is weird since it's only a 2-hour drive from Seattle. But even closer to Seattle are the majestic Olympic Mountains, and even closer is Mount Rainier, which is the most prominent peak in the continental United States, and also an active volcano. But hey,
no, I'm not going anywhere near this.
I'm not here to judge Seattleites' life decisions. It really was hard to choose which Pacific Northwest state to put higher on this list, but while Oregon is very geographically diverse, Washington is even more diverse. The Evergreen State is home to 63 different mountain ranges, the largest expanse of temperate rainforest in the US, tons of waterfalls, rivers, lakes, and ecologically unique islands, the Columbia River Gorge and the Scablands, the Palouse Hills, and charming mountain towns like Leavenworth. You know, maybe it is worth living under an active volcano.
I was shaking my head at the start because of the rain, but this is unreal, bro. This is actually so beautiful.
Near all that. Number 5. Utah. From the Rocky Mountains to desert canyons, it isn't hard to see why Utah has the 3rd most national parks in the country. You've probably heard of Zion and Arches. And no, that's not the moon. That's just Canyonlands National Park. There's also Bryce Canyon and Capitol Reef National Park, and a boatload of national monuments and forests, which are equally as impressive. As you can see, Utah shares a lot of similarities with Colorado and Arizona, but also has a lot of uniquely Utah things too. And I'm not talking about fry sauce. Besides the national parks, there are 43 state parks, and no, I'm not about to list them all. But
what is that, like a rock maze? Bro, this is everything in the one state. This is, oh my.
Just look at how pretty they are. The coolest thing about Utah, in my opinion, though, is that most of the nature is completely untouched, and aside from the super popular national parks and ski resorts like Zion and Park City.
They just answered my question, ski resorts. So I'm guessing there's a lot of skiing resorts in America then. But yeah, actually, I might consider moving to somewhere that's close to a ski resort.
It's almost never overcrowded with tourists. If it had a coastline, Utah would probably be number 1 on this list. But it doesn't, and before you say, hey, what about the Great Salt Lake? Nobody actually likes how the Great Salt Lake looks, or smells for that matter.
Wait, I want to see it.
Number 4. California. I know a lot of you are probably wondering, why isn't California number 1? I mean, it is the most geographically diverse state in the country by far, housing nearly every type of climate zone in the world. But the one thing keeping it out of even the top 3 on my list is just all the overcrowding and pollution. Even though most of the national parks are 4 to 5 hours out of the cities, there are still so many people. Sure, there are a few secret spots where you can find some peace and quiet, but if you aren't a local and and don't know what you're doing, you're never gonna find them. What you will find is 3,400 miles of pristine coastline and some of the best beaches in the world. To the south, you have La Jolla and Laguna, but more north, there's also Carmel, Moonstone Beach, Bowling Ball Beach, and the incredible Big Sur. But actually, don't go there because the locals do everything they can to hide the best spots from tourists. So why don't you head on over to one of the 9 national parks or over 300 state parks instead, both numbers being the most of any state. Try Yosemite, the Redwoods, or
yeah, we've seen Yosemite. Yosemite looks so good.
Even Death Valley. Seriously, I cannot state this enough. Almost every type of scenery imaginable is here. The problem is that people litter and their pollution is destroying the environment and not nearly enough funds are being allocated to protect it. But what can I say? It's not like money grows on trees. And even if it did, California would have probably burned through it by now. Pun intended. Number 3.
Right, top 3.
Hawaii.
What we got?
Hawaii is by far the smallest state on this list, so I guess it goes to show that size doesn't matter. Because what the Aloha State lacks inside...
Hawaii, what I've seen of Hawaii is it's unreal, man. That place is unreal.
It makes up for it in sheer beauty. There really isn't a single part of the islands that isn't jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Each of the 7 inhabited islands is entirely different in its own way, but some notable views are the Nepali coast and Waimea Canyon on Kauai, the bamboo forest Honokohau Falls, and the road to Hana on Maui, the sea cliffs of Molokai, Lanikai Beach and the Coco Head crater on Oahu, and Mauna Kea and Volcanic National Park on Big Island. In fact, the Big Island alone has 11 of the world's 13 climate zones.
Does anyone in America, right? If anyone lives in Hawaii, do you want to swap? Do you actually want to swap?
The history to the culture to the waterfalls, volcanoes, hiking, and world-class snorkeling and surfing, Hawaii is one of the most...
I don't know, maybe there's some absolute crazy psychopath that would, that would want to move to the UK after living in Hawaii. I don't know. Maybe there's one. Maybe there's one.
Unique and diverse states in the country. Not to mention the nearly perfect weather with tropical temperatures and 270 sunny days a year. Number 2.
Right, what's better than Hawaii?
In contrast
Montana?
to the last 2 states, Montana has exactly 0 miles of coastline. So how the heck did it make it so high on this list? If you're seriously asking that question, you need to visit the Big Sky State, where, yes, the sky really does seem bigger. We all know Colorado is the Rocky Mountain state, but honestly, the Rockies in Montana remain unparalleled. The mountains loom majestically over vast and colorful valleys dotted by the lakes, rivers, and wildlife that run through them. A trip to Yellowstone will leave you bewildered by the power of nature, but the lesser-known Glacier
this is where Yellowstone is?
National Park is actually, in my opinion, the most beautiful national park in America. And in the eastern half of the state, you have a complete contrast with places like Makoshika State Park with its badlands and dinosaur fossils. There are actually 55 state parks in the state, including the Lewis and Clark Caverns, Flathead Lake, Palisade and Kootenai Falls, and Bighorn Canyon. But honestly, the entire state could be a national park. Drive through just about anywhere here, and you'll have a hard time finding a view that doesn't look like a painting, even in the urban areas like Missoula or Bozeman. And on a clear night, you might even see the Northern Lights. Now, before we get to number 1,
I'd love to see the Northern Lights one day.
Like, subscribe, and let me know what you think the most beautiful state is.
But without further
ado, number 1. Alaska. Speaking of the Northern Lights, could number 1 really be anything but? Alaska
You know what? I've seen Alaska, and I don't know why I get surprised every single time, because even though I'll watch this, right, I'll then just forget about it and just think that Alaska is just snow everywhere.
More grand, vast, and untamed than any other state. And it's not even close. It even has more coastline than every other state combined. And that coast varies widely from the volcanic Aleutian Islands to glacier-lined black sand beaches to craggy cliffs to forested fjords. Sure, it does get really cold in some parts, but there is a heck of a lot more to Alaska than just snow-capped mountains. The last frontier is home to 8 national parks, each each featuring incredibly different landscapes,
Wow.
ranging from Denali, home of the tallest mountain in North America, to Kenai Fjords, gates of the Arctic, Glacier Bay, and Wrangell St. Elias, which is actually the largest national park in the nation. And while there are also 156 state parks to boot, Alaska's still the least visited state in the US, which might be due to the fact that there aren't many roads leading
Yeah, it's definitely due to that fact.
to the parks. You'll actually have to charter a plane to get to most of them. But that's also why the population density is just 1 person per square mile. So there are literally thousands of miles of untouched unique wilderness, and you're probably more likely to run into a bear, moose, or musk ox than another person in the nature here. Where else can you find over half the world's glaciers, fjords all along the coast, rainforests, volcanoes, the 10 tallest mountains in the country, and even sand dunes?
Yeah, that's what blew me away when I've seen that before, right? Sand dunes in Alaska just don't make sense.
Alaska is by far the most beautiful state in America.
No, that was really good. I wouldn't say Alaska's my number one personally, but that was really, really cool. I got some better ideas now of where I want to go to. But you guys let me know what state you guys are from or what states you guys think is the most beautiful. I really love to see that in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more content. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/L3WG. If you guys want to check me out over there, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.